That's right. Welcome in. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for making this a part of your day. Special thanks to those of you that are here early to this. I appreciate it a lot. This is going to be an adventure. Okay. This is a new format. This is going to be trial and error. We're going to see what works. We're going to see what doesn't work. We're going to calibrate and we're going to move this along. So this show from now on, these morning shows, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, start up 9 to 11. The morning shows are for you. These shows are for you. Whatever you want to do. You want to chat, you want to call, you want to give me topics and you need me to rant about something on your drive to work at 9 a.m. Whatever you want is what this is going to be. All right, so we could do it. The first thing I feel bad for is, God bless some of these people that are like in the Western time zone at 7 a.m. your time, Arizona or California or something. I hope to God you guys have this show on earbuds or something private so that nobody in your house is trying to sleep and you hear always Irish and that's right to start your day. I don't want to scare your families, okay? I don't want to scare your families. Tom, hello, Edison Park, Chicago guy. My White Sox are struggling. I can't handle it. Can't handle it. So, here's what we're going to do. Oh, I already see we got a 574. South Bend's awake in the morning on game week. I think I know who that is, by the way. We're going to get to you in a second. Hold on there, caller. So before we get into this, YouTube, subscribe if you haven't yet. Appreciate it very much. Thumbs up, notifications on. You'll be alerted every time John gets something in his craw, and I got to let it out. Let it rip. Twitter, search bar, Always Irish Rat. Always Irish Inc. Emails, alwaysirishinc@gmail.com. Audio only anywhere you want me. Call in line, live and running, baby. Who's got a case of the Mondays? Nobody. It's not allowed. It's game week. That is not allowed. You can't have a case of the Mondays on game week. You might be allowed to have a case of the Monday next Monday, depending on how the game goes. Then you might have a case of the Mondays, and then we might have a lot to talk about. On the flip side, if Notre Dame finds a way to win this ball game, you'll never have a bad Monday again. You won't. So thank you, everybody, for being here again. This show can and will look however you people want it to look. You're driving the program, all right? I think I know as the week moves on, we're going to heat up here. People are starting to get antsy for this. So these are going to liven up the further in we get. So let's get into some of the content ideas that I wanted to briefly hit here. And we're going to go back and forth, manage the call screen too. I'm going to hit a couple points. And then we already do have a couple callers. Feel free to give me a call. 312-900-8815. All these morning shows, the phone number is going to be live and active the whole time. If people want to use it, use it. You don't want to use it, you're too tired, you're half asleep, don't even know what to say because you're asleep, just listen. Whatever you want to do is good, but you need to know that number's there for you to use at your leisure, okay? So let's get into this. It's game week, and after years of looking down the road towards this ball game that's been on the schedule for a long time, this was always going to be circled as the game. It's week one, it's Ohio State, all those big brands. We know that. It was already going to be a big deal. This was on the radar as a huge deal when Brian Kelly was still running the program, right? So now that he's out and Freeman's in, it's ratcheted up to a whole nother level. Just because of the newness with Notre Dame, the connections with Freeman and Ohio State, they don't like some of the things he said. All this different stuff's in play. And it has ramped it up. I believe as this week moves along, this is going to intensify a lot. I think this is going to get wild. I think it's going to be a good, exciting week leading into this ball game. Now, regarding the actual ball game. I don't have a good feel for it. I don't have a good feel for it, all right? All I do is sit here and think about Notre Dame all day, every day, lay there in bed at night, think about it, worry about it. This game's been circled and talked about for years. I don't have a good feel. I don't have a good feel. Now, I know if you talk to the Ohio State people, they have a great feel of how it's going to go. Them by 100 is how they think it's going to go. I get that if you talk to an Ohio State person, they know the feel. They got a good feel because most of them feel pretty confident they're going to win in a lopsided fashion, which is going to make the show 1 week from this minute extremely interesting if that were to happen. All right. So they think the outcome here is very straightforward and obvious. I am not that certain. Like, I'm not picking Notre Dame to win, but I can certainly see paths that are realistic in the world of possibilities where Notre Dame's in this ball game late and can make a couple plays and win the game. I'm not saying I'm picking that. I'm not saying I'm putting my mortgage on that. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying when I look at the range of outcomes for this particular ball game, I see a range of new energy under Freeman, make a couple plays, Buckner's better than he thought, the defense comes up with some turnovers, you're in the game late, you find a way to win it, and the Freeman era is off to the races. I'm not saying that's the most likely scenario, but it is one that I could see occurring if certain things happen. That's a possibility, as well as Notre Dame plays them close and loses. And I'm not going to lie, you guys, we're Notre Dame people. Look at our recent history. There is a possibility this team has too much firepower and gets ahead of us. It gets away from us. Couple big plays over the top. You're down, then you're chasing early. The typical Brian Kelly big game stop. 9:08 is how long it took me to yell about Brian Kelly on a Monday morning. 9:08, 8 minutes in is what it took. But all of those are possible. All of those are realistic. All of those are outcomes. They're all outcomes that I could see being realistic or happening. They really are. So I want to know what you guys think. Okay, well, David Knight has 500 on Notre Dame to cover. So we know that's what he needs. Notre Dame, dude, 88, 41, 27, ND. Woo! Man, that's ballsy. Pat with the $10 donation here. I appreciate that on a Monday morning. Back for another adventure that's Notre Dame football. Wishing you and yours the best. And the transition we'll call later in the week. That's beautiful. I love it. Thank you very much, Pat. Not sure which Pat this is. There's a few of them. But thank you. I appreciate that. Beautiful. 41-27 ND, that's a little ballsy. I see that in the chat here. Man, whoo. So I don't know, 41-36 ND, Notre Dame defense plays big. So it looks like we have some positive Notre Dame thoughts in here. And listen, I'm not, again, whenever I say, I think there might be a path for Notre Dame to be able to win, then it turns into you're picking them to win and you're saying that they're going to blow them out the other way. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying there's paths to all of these outcomes. Oh, Henry, I feel bad. Sorry, not going to be able to get any work done in the morning. Nervous about our linebackers in space this weekend. Still have second half Oklahoma State memories. That's in our minds. It definitely is. Like, that happened. What happened with that secondary is real in that bowl game. It's fair to be concerned about that. I'm more concerned about the secondary than the linebackers, though. I think that linebacking unit's going to be pretty good. Yeah, you don't want Bertrand out in space in coverage. Like, I get that. Like, there's certain things you have to avoid if you're Notre Dame to make this all work. And you certainly don't want a guy like Bertrand out there in coverage in the middle. But I actually feel really good about those linebackers. That's one where I'm not stressing out. And I'm just a little more nervous on the back end. And I don't know if that's fair or not, but it's always like, it's just a little freaky. I have Notre Dame syndrome. I'm 37. My entire life that I can remember, Notre Dame hasn't really been that great in the secondary. All right. Looks like we have an audio hang up. So I'm going to try and play with that. I'll play with some of the settings. Again, I apologize. Some of this is trial and error. I think I know what it is. When I switched jobs, I got all new computer equipment. I bet something set up with the microphone to trigger louder or softer. I will play with that. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it now. It might have to be after. $50 donation here, David Knight. Wow, man, did you win the 500 already, David? You must if you're dropping 50 to me on a Monday morning just to yell about it before it happens. All right, I will work on the audio. Not sure if I could do it in the middle of the show. My bad. It's always something, you guys. I have planned for everything, tested all this stuff. I'll play with the microphone settings for the next one. So we got some callers now. Let's get into this. We're going to shoot over to the caller screen. 574. Is this Craig?
Yes, it is, John. What's going on? Craig OND here.
How are you feeling? It's game week, Craig. What are your thoughts?
I'm feeling, I'm feeling unsure, but if I had to put a score on it, I think I posted a few weeks back that, I don't know, I just have a feeling that Notre Dame has a chance to pull off a 1-point win in the last minute. So I'm going with 25-24 ND.
All right, so you have them holding Ohio State to 24. I think that would be fantastic. Every Notre Dame fan would take that right away.
Yeah, I do. However, if the game gets out of hand, I don't see them letting off the gas, and I see them trying to bury Notre Dame as deep as they can. So I just hope that doesn't happen. Yeah,
I don't think that Notre Dame has a shot to win in a shootout of any sort. So I think you have to find a way for us to kind of keep their score down in a range where it's reasonable that if Notre Dame plays really solid, they have a chance to be in that game. In the 20s, even in the 30s, I would not freak out. Like against any other team on the schedule, Craig, I don't want to give up 38, 35 points. If you did that against this team, you could almost live with that. Like they're just going to put up a lot of points on everybody. Am I crazy for thinking that? Is that too many points?
No, I think that's realistic. My next question would be, what do you think Tommy Rees can put up?
That's a fantastic question. And the other thing, Craig, Tommy Rees has no option. He has to get creative. Like that boy wonder, boy genius stuff you hear, nationally with him, you're going to need to see it because that wide receiver room is going to be an issue. You get one or two more injuries in that room and it's even a bigger issue. He's going to have to get creative. He's going to have to use those tight ends, use those running backs, use what you do have that you like to make it work. Do you think he could do that?
Well, I'm not sure. I think he's still unproven, but one of the biggest reasons why I called you today was what you said, how he's labeled boy wonder, genius offensive guy. Can you help me understand where the evidence is in order to get those nicknames? I mean, the NFL has wanted this guy. He's called boy wonder. He's called genius. I haven't seen any evidence other than in games where they're supposed to win. It certainly didn't show up during the big games. So where does this come from? Where does the boy wonder thing come from? Where does this genius offensive guy label come from? Can you help me understand that? Because I haven't seen any evidence. Am I missing something?
I think that's a very fair question. And I feel like there's this dichotomy going on, like this industry people all those NFL analytic people, the scouts, all of those type of folks, whenever I hear them on the radio or whatever, or in print, they all say, those industry insiders, that the way his brain thinks about football is different. His dad is a lifelong football, front office guy, all of that. And but it's always insiders, like industry insiders, and like high-end NFL philosophical offensive circles. They all say it. And then some of it is, I've heard this as well, Craig, you haven't seen all the stuff he can do because Notre Dame has not been set up for it with the appropriate personnel, or with the quarterback that can run all of the modern things that he might want to do. A full slate of capable wide receivers. So there's that too. But at what point do we need to see it? Or are we just not going to see it? And then he goes to be like a highly paid offensive coordinator in the NFL. And it's just all just on the table at Notre Dame. That's my best guess. It's the industry insiders love him. They love him. But I'm waiting for an explosive offense Kelly promised me 12 years ago.
Yeah, it all sounds great on paper, but for me, I've got to see something, and I am hopeful. I'm hopeful for that, and I hope we do see it. If he's ever going to get a chance to do that, I think it is with Marcus Freeman. I do believe that his hands were tied under Brian Kelly. So I like what I saw in the first half of the bowl game. But I don't know. I'm very hopeful. I want him to succeed, but I think there's going to be a big spotlight on him, bigger than what I'm seeing in the chatter on Twitter and people I talk to. So it's just my opinion.
And Craig, let me ask this. What do you expect the learning curve to be like for Marcus Freeman, and how patient do you think people should be with it? That's a real question I've had rolling around in my mind. And the closer we get to the first ball game, the more it's in my head. What is the learning curve? And maybe more importantly than what is the learning curve, how does it show? That might be the more important question. There's going to be a learning curve, but how does it show? In your first ball game in a very stressful environment, that's some of the stuff I'm starting to think about now too. And you may not even be able to practically see that on the field. What do you think his learning curve is going to be like?
Well, my answer would be, first of all, I think he's ahead of the learning curve, but there's still a big learning curve. Me personally, I'm willing to be patient, because if I look at the big picture, I haven't seen a coach embrace this position since Lou Holtz.
Yep.
We've had other coaches between Lou Holtz and Marcus Freeman. Yeah, did they embrace the Notre Dame mystique and that sort of thing? Maybe a little bit, maybe not at all. But Marcus Freeman, to me, is clearly embracing it. So I'm going to be patient. I think the learning curve, look, do I want to win 10 games? Sure, absolutely. If we win 9, okay, I can deal with that. 8, you're kind of pushing me.
Yeah.
But,
with relative health, if 8 and 4, you can't have. With relative health, you can't. I think you could get away with 9 and 3, because your 2 could be the two teams that are established, Clemson and Ohio State. And then that leaves you one more team. You have more talent than year one, working out the kinks. You maybe lose it. Anything more than that, I think the fan base is going to start getting antsy. And I think then you start getting into negative recruiting against that. I want to avoid all of that dynamic.
Yeah, it could turn into, a vicious cycle if it gets too bad. And so, but I'm hopeful. I'm more excited than I've been in a long time. I naturally, though, a lot of times I fall into that. Well, we have a chance. It can happen. And you get,
Hey, Craig, look at it this way. If it was Kelly, I wouldn't feel like we even had a chance, because it's big ball game Kelly. I would have felt like we had way less of a chance under him. At least now I know it's going to be something new, and I'm open to it. I honestly just written it off if it was Kelly. It's big game Kelly going into this environment. No way.
I completely agree. And if we do lose the game, I will say that if we do lose the game, we won't be losing it as bad as if Kelly was coaching. That's just my opinion. Might be an unpopular opinion, but I think we have a better chance with Freeman coaching this game than Kelly.
Here's an answer for you, Craig. Andrew Gilmore puts in the chat, these insiders like Reese because of his development of book, was only a medium 3-star guy and exceeded expectations. The hype he's getting, to me, surpasses turning Ian Book from what he was into a backup quarterback in the NFL. You know what else, Craig? This might not be fair. Some of this with Reese is because of who his dad is, too. And he has got, I'm not saying he hasn't worked hard and earned it. I'm not saying the nepotism thing. But when your dad is a nice guy, everybody respects in NFL circles, that can't hurt as far as your people's impression of you and your family. So I do think that's a part of it. We got a lot of Buckeyes here in the chat. I love that. I love having fans of other teams in here just to balance out the ecosystem. And something else, by the way, we're going to do later this week, folks. I'm going to do an interview with a Ohio State YouTuber. And I want to do that crossover and see from their angle how they're seeing all this, maybe where Ohio State's a little vulnerable. We're going to do that in a couple days. So, Craig, what are you going to do for the game? You got something fun planned? You just going to stress out all day? What's the move?
I'll be out on the lake on the boat in the morning and through the afternoon, but I've already told everybody who's coming to hang out, like, we're off the lake at 4 o'clock. I'm going home. I'm going to chill out, relax, take a shower, pour my vodka, and watch the game and do some tweeting.
Beautiful. That's all you can do. Well, Craig, thanks for calling, my friend. We'll see you soon and have a good day.
All right, John. Hey, congratulations. I want to thank you for doing this throughout the years. You've made me a smarter fan, and I get questions from family and friends and fans and non-fans, and they challenge me. They ask me questions, and without you and your analysis and your communication and having this platform, I wouldn't be as smart as I am to fight for the Irish. Thank you.
I appreciate that very much, Craig. And thank you for all your support. You've been there forever. Appreciate you. See you soon, man.
All right. Take care, buddy.
Take care. Have a good one.
All right. Bye.
Oh, good old Craig from South Bend. Let's see. Indie podcasters who are fans are predicting an 11-1 season and a playoff run for a first-year head coach. They will immediately begin a drumbeat to lay blame if it doesn't work out. First target will be Reese. You know, here's the other thing with this. For all these years, it was like, well, are the chains really totally off Reese under Kelly to be able to unleash a modern offense and do all that we wanted to see, a more exciting attacking style and all that. And then you always have this drumbeat of Kelly's holding Reese back or pulling the strings on what they can do. But then you have people inside Notre Dame saying that's really not what happened and that Kelly wasn't holding down Reese and locking him down. So I don't know where the truth lies there, but I do know that if Reese sticks around, meaning he doesn't jump to the NFL right away after this year, then you have a chance where you might be able to build some of this out the right way. And by the right way, I mean have a complement of 5 or 6 or 7 really good wide receivers that you could work with and move around and do some things with and tweak, build your packages out, get more creative. The issue is, I don't even know if Tommy Reese is going to be around to do that. It sounds like he's going to be the hottest name in offensive coordinating in the NFL soon. So I don't know. I really don't. I think somebody said Notre Dame would have to score 55 to win this game. I don't know about that. And somebody else said if you keep Ohio State in the 30s, that leads me to think maybe it's a Notre Dame win. I'm telling you guys, for our defense, the way it's been the last handful of years, The 30s, you would usually be like 35, 38. You would be like, man, I don't like the way that sounds. In this ball game against that offense, if you keep them in the 30s, gives you your best chance to win. It really does. So find any way possible to trying to hold them down there. We're going to go back to the phone lines here. 803.
Hello.
You're on the air, 803. Who we got?
Hey, John. How you doing this morning?
Good. What's going on, man?
Oh, not too much, buddy. First thing I want to tell you is congratulations on the new show. I've been listening to you now for about a year. Love and appreciate the honesty. You know, you pretty much speak a Notre Dame fan's mind every time you open your mouth up. And my name is Michael O'Hara from South Carolina. Die-hard Notre Dame fan. And man, just called in, congratulations. Hey, I love the show.
I appreciate that very much, my friend. Thank you. I'm glad you have found me and stuck with it all this time. It's going to be a fun era here. How do you feel about the beginning of the Freeman era? Are you nervous about Ohio State? You think it's being overblown? Where are you at on this ball game?
Well, I'm is win, baby, win. I think it's time to get rid of all the criticism. It's a new era. Tired of hearing all the questions. Can Notre Dame hang with Ohio State? Are they elite? Let's put all that to rest. Let's go ahead and jump on the Freeman Factor train and win, baby, win.
That's what I'm talking about. So that's the plan. If you had to put money on the most likely outcome in this ballgame, what do you think it would be? Close Ohio State win, meaning under the spread, close Notre Dame win, OSU blowout, Notre Dame kicking the crap out of them. What do you think is the most likely scenario given what you know about these teams?
Well, I think the this Notre Dame team is actually going to show more grit than what a lot of people say. I think they're going to be physical. I think Marcus Freeman and Al Golden, are both going to bring that. I think the offense will score. I mean, under Tommy Reeves, we did put up a good amount of points against Clemson. And I think we're going to score. But, John, I love you. I'm on the road traveling. My wife is calling in. Love it, baby. Win, baby, win.
That's what I'm talking about. Drive safe. Take care. Enjoy the ball game.
Yes, sir. Thank you, and God bless. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Take care. Man, I like having a little accent, little Notre Dame love and the accent down south there. That's a beautiful thing right there. What else do we have in the chats here? Give Freeman 3 years and Notre Dame will be far better with more skilled players. This is actually something on my notes that I wanted to bring up. And I know that it's an angle that's going to come up when I do the interview with the Ohio State YouTuber. And the point of it is, it's kind of juxtaposition and opposite in your mind, but it makes perfect sense to me, and it's perfectly logical the way I see the world and process football. And my point here is, I feel really, really great about Marcus Freeman overall. Really, really great. I feel way better about Marcus Freeman overall than I do Marcus Freeman in a week, in 5 days from now. And both of those, I think, can be true at the same time when you're dealing with a guy that has no body of work but a ton of high-level potential. And that's what I see in Marcus Freeman. So it's like, I love what I think he's going to turn into. I'm a lot more excited about that than I am how it's going to present in 5 days. And what I'm not looking forward to is if there are some of those struggles or Ohio State really is one of the best one or two teams in the country, which is perfectly feasible to think that may be the case. If that all happens, I know people are going to say this guy's in over his head. He can't do it. Smooth talker, good dresser. Look at the play. You know that's how it's going to go, and it's going to be a big overreaction. It just is. It's going to be a big overreaction. And I am Captain Overreact. And so when somebody with my temperament is telling you that it would be an overreaction to do that, I mean it. There's going to be a learning curve. He didn't come in here as a finished product. He didn't. And nobody said that he did. Freeman came in here with potential, and his elite recruiting was the engine that was going to drive all this. All right, drive all this. Now, Rob Lobo says it'll be a justified overreaction if they indeed get blown out. So you can't get blown out. I agree with that. This team and program's been too far down the road to get blown out. You just can't. And I did that on, I don't understand. Some people are saying the audio's fine. Other people are saying it's wrong. I'll work on the settings after this episode. Had to try them on the new computer once. You don't know what you're going to get till you get it. Oh, boy. Who else do we got? Let's go back to the call screen. 773, that's got to be a Chicago local number. Let's check it out. 773.
Hey, John, it's Tom Frawley in Edison Park. How you doing, pal?
Good. How are you, man? Good morning. Happy Monday.
Yeah, same to you. Listen, I just want to tell Notre Dame Nation to wipe the stink of Brian Kelly off your minds. He's gone. Let's move on. He left us in a terrible lurch. And when I saw that article, him not returning any of Lou Holtz's letters or responding to him, that sums him up. I met that man twice in my life, and I didn't have a good experience either time. So let's move on. As far as the game on Saturday, I think the nuances of Notre Dame's offense are going to be finally let go because Kelly's gone. The governor is off reads. Let him run strictly RPO. Let him do that, and let Tyler Buchner, I think, will shock the nation by the end of the season. If he stays healthy, please God, he's going to be dynamite because he has the talent around him. Now, there's X factors. Obviously, we got Michael Mayer and Tyree, but he's also going to get the ball in the hands of Braden Lenzy more. He's a burner. You got to use that kid. I think he's a dark horse to really be a star. On the defensive side of the ball, they're going to be rolling 9 linebackers from what I'm hearing, and they're deep at the linebacker. And then the addition of Xavier Watts, the two-way player, the only two-way player we've had since Joe Burris back in the early '90s, and you've got Brad Joseph, Cam Hart, and Tariq Bracy. I think they're going to be fine. I got Notre Dame winning 29-27.
Ooh, man. So you got that defense holding them down under 30. That would be, I'm just not expecting that. Like, even if things go great for Notre Dame, I'm expecting Ohio State to score more than 30. It surprises me a little bit. So many folks this morning have thought that Notre Dame would be able to limit them. I hope they do. I just think it's a big ask.
Well, it is a big ask, but here's the other part that's going to come into play. The intangibles that I've heard of the fall practices so far is how well they're being coached up, not only from Freeman, but the position coaches. And I believe they're going to be a lot more aggressive. And I believe Freeman is not going to pull at Kelly. He'll have these boys ready to play on Saturday. He knows what it's all about going into that hostile. I was there in '95, and I never met a more disgusting fan base. And that includes Miami, Georgia Tech, and Clemson. That is a terrible fan base. They're ignorant and they're anti-Catholic. So he'll have them ready because he's going to be able to. I'd love to be in the locker room to hear what he has to say to him.
You know, I'm really interested to see what the difference is in this energy and the big game stuff. You know how Kelly always had him. It was like a business trip, clock, punch in, punch out, do your job, do your job like an accountant in your little cubicle. Just punch in your numbers, nice, and be a nice, quiet boy, punch your numbers and then leave. I need to see that change. That has to change, and that is just a vibe. That is your leadership among the players. It's the coach breeding that and encouraging it. That is one of the top things I want to see against Ohio State. Obviously, the practical nature of the offense, defense, special teams, but I want to see that energy level in big games be something we never got under Kelly. And I think that's something fair to look for early on with Freeman, where there's some larger scale changes with roster construction and recruiting that are going to take longer to come together. This is one I want to see right away. I want to be able to feel that vibe is different, and these boys are fired up. What do you think about that?
I totally agree with you on that point. I mean, I know that game, that part, they're not going to show up to Ohio State and lay an egg like Kelly did in 2017 down in Miami and 2019 in Michigan. It's not going to be that type of team. He's going to have these lads ready to rock and roll, and that's what I'm really looking forward to. Now, as far as the learning curve, yeah, he's going to have some dings and dents, but I don't think it's going to affect the other part of the coaching staff, because they've got so much experience, and he did a smart thing when he hired these coaches. I'll tell you that. I think that's an intangible that most people don't see, and that'll come to the forefront.
I think the hiring of Al Golden is a lot bigger deal than people think. And a lot of that, in my opinion, isn't even practically on the field or recruiting. It is the fact that Al Golden's been around the block. He's seen it all. He's done it all at both levels of major college football and the NFL. He is an old head. Yeah. He is somebody Freeman can go to and say, where am I at here? How would you do this? And also, if I'm Freeman, I leave the door open to a guy like Al Golden. I say, Al, anytime that you want to pull me aside in my office and go over something that you see or notice or a different way to do things or whatever, I'm open to that. I'm sure that discussion's been had. I'm sure those discussions go on. I love that. I love that, because you need a guy like that when you're a 38-year-old head coach at Notre Dame that you can lean on. I love that hire specifically for that reason.
I do too. I mean, going back to when Dan Devine left and when Faust came in with all that hoopla, and he didn't have a great supporting cast until year 3. And like the caller said before, we haven't had this. This is not reminiscent of anything we've ever had other than Lou Holtz coming in. He was right on that. The rest, the other coaches in the early 2000s and all the way up to when Kelly got hired were absolute garbage. They didn't buy into the whole Notre Dame community. They were grossly overmatched. I think that Freeman's already demonstrated this. Plus, I heard a thing a couple of weeks ago. I believe that wide receivers coach is named Chancey Stuckey, and I guess the wide receivers were, and all the receivers were talking about how much they didn't know until he got to the room. That just sums up Kelly's era to a T. So bye Kelly. Let's go Irish. 29-27. Notre Dame over Ohio State.
There you go. Beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Beautiful, Tom. Have a good week. We'll talk to you later. Thanks for the call, man. Have a good day.
You too.
Take care. Oh, of course. We got Uncle Lou. Uncle Lou drops in. And I know what he's trying to do. Uncle Lou's in here trying to get John's blood pressure off the charts before 10 o'clock a.m. That's what Uncle Lou's doing. He's sitting there in Georgia, and he's going, what can I do to really get in these Notre Dame people's heads? And it's make John have a stroke before 10 a.m. Talking about how good Kelly's recruiting in the Bayou down there and all that. Beautiful. Ooh, Ooh, Mr. E, man, stroke your egos to completion while you can, Notre Dame fans, because Ohio State is going to skull drag you all over the field. Here's the issue with that, Mr. Man. Here's the issue with that. So you were saying, Ohio State's going to skull drag you. Let's just say that happened. And the game went poorly for Notre Dame, and it ends up that Ohio State piles it on Notre Dame. Then you know what I say to that? That's exactly what should happen. It shouldn't be a surprise. The Ohio State people are going to be in here. Oh, look at this. We did. What's your argument? Oh, look, we did what we were supposed to do. That's what I don't get. Somebody like me isn't saying Notre Dame's going to win. We're going to blow them out. I'm not saying any of that. But these Ohio State people are saying we're supposed to win. We're favored. We're going to win by a lot. Then they're going to win by a lot and then run their mouths that they did exactly what they were supposed to do. If that happens, good for you. You won a game you were supposed to win. That's the other thing with this, the pressure. Ohio State's further down the road. It's Ryan Day's fourth year, established quarterback, great running back, all those talented wide receivers, a defense that has talent, hasn't proven it yet, younger, bad scheme, bad coaching last year, all of it. I get it, all of it. I get it. But Ohio State should expect to win. So if they do, I don't know why they're going to come give me crap. You did what you were supposed to do. Check it off the box. Move on to next week. Sick of these people already. Been offered tickets to the game. Not interested. I'm not going to Ohio. I'd end up dead in the parking lot. You all know that. There's no way. No way. I better chill out on this coffee. This is just going to keep winding worse the longer we go. 281 area code. I don't know where 281 is. That Texas? I'm just trying to guess. 281, you're on the air.
Hey, John, how you doing? This is Steve.
What's up, Steve? How are you today? Happy Monday, my friend. It's game week.
I'm doing fantastic because it's game week. It's go Irish. It's crush the Buckeyes, and let's slam the Buckeyes' heads into the ground at the shoe and show the world what Notre Dame is, what we should be, what we expect to be, and what we have been in the history as the greatest college football program there is.
I got to tell you, I love the idea.
One that's in Texas. I'm just north of Houston.
I love your idea. I love what you're going for. But the question is, what do you think the odds of that actually happening Saturday are? Like, if you had to pick an outcome or actually put a bunch of money on it, what do you think is most likely, the most likely scenario here?
I think the most likely scenario is a down to the wire, last minute game for either side. I see this going more like those two games we had against Georgia, going down to the wire. Of course, both of those ended up with us losing it in the last minute, which drove me crazy, which is one part of your show that I love, because you're about as intense as I am on game day. I absolutely lose my mind on positive plays and negative plays. So I my wife she hates to be in the room with me when I'm watching the Irish. So I see a close game. I'm leaving Thursday morning. Me and a buddy of mine, we're driving up there to Ohio to go to the game. Plan on being at game day in the morning and booing Kirk Herbstreit and his biased ass. But I can't get over how excited I am just for this week. But I do see a close game. I think Buckner's going to perform well. I think it's what we've been waiting for from the quarterback position for a while. I grew up in the 80s watching Tony Rice, watching Rick Meyer in the early 90s, and that's what I'm seeing is that type of play from Buckner, which was elite. Now, I think we're going to see what he was coming out of high school and what he was recruited for, and it's going to be a star show for him.
Let me ask you this. Here's my question about Buckner, and Buckner's been a really touchy subject for me for a long time. And the reason is I have a lot of frustrations with Buckner and his development, but a lot of them aren't at anybody or they're nobody's fault. Buckner lost a year to injury in high school. He lost a year to the ACL. Then he comes in and he isn't starting over Cone, all that. So his developmental arc hasn't been exactly what anybody wanted it to be, and it's nobody's fault. It's a bunch of weird circumstances. My question to you is, knowing all that, one of his biggest attributes, especially week one, game one, who we play, we're going to need his legs to win this game. Do you have any fear about that part of this? How much he's going to pull the ball, run it, take those hits? Because you need to pull out all those stops to be in the game against Ohio State, in my opinion. And you also need to keep this guy healthy, big picture, for Notre Dame to have a good season. How would you manage that? Or am I just a worrier and I'm overthinking it?
I think we're probably all should be somewhat concerned because he has had some freak injuries. He jumped turned the ball over or whatever it was, and he was jumping up and down and rolled his ankle and was out for a while. So, and the fact that he runs, you always got to worry about him taking a big hit. But how many other quarterbacks have we seen that were able to do that? Book was very elusive. He didn't really take a lot of big hits because he was just very good at escaping.
Right.
So Buckner goes and he seeks out contact. He doesn't shy away.
That makes me nervous. Like, I love that, but that's how you get a separated shoulder when you want 2 extra yards, but I need you to just get out of bounds and live another down. Like, those are all the type things that I get nervous about. And the other part of this is, if the first game was Marshall or Cal, you don't have that worry because you don't need to rely on Buckner, his legs, to win those games. That's what's so different about this. You don't have that luxury to just hand the ball off and think you're going to win the game. He's going to have to be dynamic, and I just need it to be smart, pick your spots, because I can't have him getting dinged right out of the gate.
Well, I agree with that. I think that's the one thing about people. We all see the way he throws, and we think, oh, that looks odd. That makes me uncomfortable because it's not the natural throwing. What I see with his throwing release is it's a quick release. He doesn't take a big windup like Tim Tebow. He took huge windups to throw, and so it took a long time. Buckner is real quick, and the ball's out. And everything I've seen from him throwing, those throws are right on the money. The thing against Cincinnati when he turned the ball over, he got hit as he threw. So same with Cone, was getting hit and making bad decisions. So I think him getting some experience last year is fantastic for us because he was able to get in some games in big spots, and it didn't always go well, but there were times he made dynamic plays as well. So I think that can only help him. But I think that quick release, and if Stuckey has helped our receivers enough to where they can get off the ball, get off the defender quick, and hit some quick slants to Styles or Tyree out of the backfield, and get quick release and make those linebackers have to back up some and not be pressing, because they're going to be pressing and forcing him to beat them with the throw because they think, oh, he's just a runner. We're going to try and run the ball down their throats, so they're going to be stacking the box, and we've got to hit some quick passes early. So Reese has got to open up the playbook. And talking about Reese in the previous call with Craig and Tom, I think we saw what we could do offensively against OK State. Once Brian Kelly was out, we saw what we could do immediately. What we have, the talent that we have, and that was with Cone. So I think it's going to only improve with Buckner and his dynamic two-way ability. But the problem is we just didn't make any adjustments. OK State made all the adjustments going into the second half, and we didn't make one on the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball. So hopefully we learn from that, and we can get that going, not just one half, but both halves. And we're going to win 40-37. And that's because Brandon Joseph is going to, on Ohio State's last drive, Brandon Joseph is going to pick off Stroud in the end zone and for the game-winning play.
Wow, that's very specific. That's very specific. I like it.
Well, that's how we beat Miami. That's how we beat Florida State back in the day. So we're going to end it on those defensive plays, and we're going to go home happy.
Beautiful. I love that outlook, and I love that score range that you brought up is right in the area I was thinking, like as a reasonable one where Notre Dame could still be in the game if they do some things offensively. So I like that. That's more of a range I'm in too. So I kind of like where your head's at there. So I appreciate it, man. Anything else?
No, that's all I got for now. I appreciate you letting me get on, and I'll watch and listen to the rest of the show. And you do a great job, John. I appreciate it.
I appreciate that, man. Have a really good day. Enjoy the game later.
You too. Go Irish.
Go Irish. Dude, I don't understand. Some of you are saying, oh, it sounds like John's on a tin can, and then other people are saying, oh, I'm in my place, and it sounds absolutely perfect. So I don't know if that's my end or some of your guys' end or both. I don't know. Oh. Let's see. What else? We're going to do... There's a comment I wanted to go back up to here that I think is very interesting. Where is it? Let's see. Nobody ever mentions Audric Estime. Somebody asked me earlier in the chat who I think might have the most yards in this game running. It wouldn't surprise me if it ended up being Estime and not Tyree because of the way he's used. And I'm not sure if Diggs is going to be healthy enough to get the load he normally gets. So that's why I'm thinking it might actually be Estime. And there's something about that dude I just really, really like. I like his mind frame. I feel like it's a little unique and a little different. And I feel like he's cranked up and ready to prove something in a way that I don't see a lot of guys in his position are based off, their first year. So I'm really excited about that. I think Estime's poised to do something here and become a name everybody outside of Notre Dame knows. I like the way he changed his body as well. He came into camp, and if you look at the way he looks now, he looks totally different. Like he's got that strength and that body that we saw when he came in, all those pictures. But it seems like he's slimmed down in certain ways where he isn't going to lose that power. And it's more he gained like side to side ability, but without losing the power, which is exactly what you would want. So I love that. Let's see, dial up. I don't have dial up audio, Henry. It is a little tricky to call in and sync up with the program that hosts the call-in line and then transferring it through the mixer and having it come out. You got to be Bill Gates to do one of these shows. You got to be Steve Jobs, like a computer expert here. I'm a content guy, not a tech guy. 240, you're on the air.
What's up, John?
How are you?
I'm really happy for you, man, that you have this new opportunity.
I appreciate
really
that.
Happy for you.
Thank you very much. This is my passion. I just love talking Notre Dame football. What's on your mind?
I'm just really excited for this game against Ohio State. Even if we lose, I think we can just show the world that Notre Dame's back. We're for real. We can compete with the best team. I really like our lines this year.
Yeah, I think,
that they can cause it.
Those lines are going to dictate the year to me. I honestly think that. Those lines are going to dictate everything. If that offensive line could get mean again under Harry coming back, then that helps everything. It helps Buckner and this offense ease into it. It helps everything. And if that defensive line can eat, then that helps cover up maybe an issue on the back end, or don't have as much depth in the secondary. So those lines are key, and they're especially key right away against Ohio State. Notre Dame needs both of our lines to play great to be in that game. Nobody's going to tell me otherwise. Is that how you see it?
Oh, of course. And man, these Ohio State fans, like I thought Michigan fans were bad. Ohio State fans make Michigan fans look like saints, man. I was shocked at how rough Ohio State fans are on social media.
You know what I think? I've been feeling that too. I've been saying lately that I just want this game to be done because it's the first game. It's all we've been hearing about since the offseason and then Freeman being hired. it's all about Ohio State. And I just think we've gotten to a critical mass point here where we're all ready for it just to kind of be done so we can move on to the next thing. I don't understand. The Ohio State people are like mad just to be mad, or like, I don't understand, but they're taking a lot of shots just to like do it. And it's like, you don't understand how good we are. I'm like, yeah, I do. You're a really good program and you're going to be really good this year. What's your point? Like, I admit that. So I don't know what else there is for them to really say. Like, I know you guys are good and you probably should win the game on paper, but they're not as bad as Michigan to me, because at least their program I like more and I think is more elite. But it's annoying, and I'm kind of just ready to be done with them.
Mm-hmm. And I'm really excited to see like how a dynamic quarterback like Tyler Buchner can help elevate Notre Dame. Like, I'm not saying Ian Book was a bad quarterback, but he can never make the big throw. And I think that TB can make the big throw and can maybe win us one of the Ohio State or Clemson games that we wouldn't ever be able to win under Kelly and just Ian Book.
Yeah, and it's really like, I've been saying this throughout the Kelly era. I'm going to give you Kaiser. I'm going to give them Kaiser as probably the best, like, natural deep ball thrower, big arm, over the top guy in the Kelly era, unless you want to count Phil at Boston College. But he had that big arm. But I've always been waiting here the last dozen years saying, at what point do I get to see a Notre Dame offense with an elite quarterback and see what that looks like? Like, can we have one of those and try it and just see how much easier life is with an elite guy? Mm-hmm. So I don't know if we're going to end up seeing Buchner be elite at the end of this year, but Notre Dame definitely needs to know exactly what they have in him. This is a huge year for Buchner because Notre Dame needs to know what they have. And if he stays healthy, I think you will. So I don't know, but his health is a big thing. You got to navigate him running to win games and not getting his head knocked off.
Yeah. So I'm really, honestly, we're all like pretty happy with the recruiting that we have now. But like, imagine how good the recruiting will be if we beat Clemson and Ohio State, or dare say both. Like, I really feel like we can reach Alabama level if we win one of these games.
I think it's going to, even if you win one or both of those, if you won both of those games, it'd be unbelievable. That would change things. But even if you won one of them, mm-hmm. I still think it takes more than that to get to that level of depth and talent, that they have down south. But what you could do is close the gap in a way that Kelly never quite could, but got frustratingly close to doing so. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. So Ohio State, you think high scoring, low scoring? Where do you think this is going to fall?
Well, I think we got to hold them under 30. If we can hold them under 30, I think we have a great chance of beating them. Obviously, we can't do a shootout. It can't be like a 40-plus point game. But I think that 30 range is probably where it will be at. And I think if Buchner is elite, I do think we win this game. If he's not, probably like a close loss.
And if it's a close loss, what's your reaction to that going to be? Like, okay, like at least we competed with a top 3 team, it wasn't embarrassing, or are you going to be mad and you're going to say, hey, I thought Freeman was brought in here to win the games that Kelly couldn't win, and it isn't right away. Where are you going to fall in that dynamic if it's a competitive close loss?
I mean, I'm going to be bummed, but I'm going to be hopeful that this team can improve and hopefully be good enough to beat Clemson. Because I got tickets to that game, and I really want to see an Irish win there in South Bend.
Yep, and I'll be there too, by the way. Let me know. We'll tailgate. So
awesome.
Yeah, let me know for sure. We're going to have a big tailgate setup. Can't miss it. I mean, it's going to be big, flag flying. You'll know right where it is, right behind the stadium. It's going to be fun. So everybody who's coming for that, you'll all be invited, and we will we'll share some information on that later in the year.
Great. Well, John, I'm excited for the season, and go Irish, man.
Thank you very much for the call. Enjoy the rest of your week. Don't get too nervous. Game day will be here before you know it.
Yeah.
Take care. Enjoy your Monday. Okay, next up, 937. Where is that? Is that Ohio? 937, you're on the air.
John. Hey, John. My name's Sean. Just calling in. I'm actually a Buckeye fan, and I'm just going to welcome you guys to the largest Catholic university in the country, Ohio State. I think like 40 to 50% of the student population is Catholic there. So if you want to go to Mass on Sunday, there's a great parish called St. Patrick's downtown. I recommend them. And then I think there's also a Newman Center across the street. So if you want to go before the game, I think it's probably around 5 o'clock, something like that. You can walk across the street and go to Mass over there to get your Sunday obligation in. So,
wow, that's actually pretty nice of you. Thank you for doing that. There are a lot of Notre Dame fans that do that on the home games as well. So thanks for doing that. I appreciate it. So how do you see this ball game?
Yeah, so a couple quick keys, I think, for Notre Dame to watch for. So on defense, if they can push Paris Johnson around on the left side, then I think that shows really good promise for the game. And then one other thing I think that you might not think about is that last year, C.J. Stroud, he hurt his shoulder, so he didn't run the ball very much. But if he starts running the ball in this game, I wouldn't be surprised because I've heard his shoulder's fully healthy. And then offensively, I think if I was Notre Dame, I would try to push them right up the middle. And the reason why is that Ohio State's playing in the new defense where they're going to have at least 5 to 6 players that are pass type players. I think they're going to be playing 3 safeties at least. So I would try to push up the middle. I would not be trying to toss the ball around. I think that's a disaster and probably something Ohio State would want to happen. So if I was Notre Dame, I would try to keep it to a low scoring game by keeping the ball as long as you can and taking long distinguished drives. So if you can get like 4 yards a run with Buckner or with the running back, that's what I would try to do. So I just wanted to call in and just give you my 2 cents.
I appreciate that very much. I've been thinking a lot the last few days about the matchup of Notre Dame's offensive line versus that defensive front 7 of Ohio State. And while everybody knows Notre Dame's defense, especially the back 7 against that passing attack, is going to be a big determining factor of the game, I contend that battle of Notre Dame's offensive line and Ohio State's defensive line is going to be just as big of a deal. And the reason is for exactly what you said. If Notre Dame's able to run the ball, control the clock, eat up some time, it not only helps Notre Dame's offense, but that's their best defense. You know, they can't be throwing the ball over your head and all around you if you have the ball and you're moving down the field. So let me ask you this as a Ohio State person. Where do you feel best about with Ohio State? And do you have some areas of concern? And all we've heard from the Ohio State people is how much you're going to kill us by. I would really be interested to hear if there are other areas of concern on your club, or do you just feel great about everything and you're ready to beat Notre Dame by 40?
No, I think those are the 3 things, or the 2 things that I would have concern about is our left tackle, because he's new there. He played guard last season. Now he's a 5-star tackle, but he's new. And then the other thing I'm interested to see is our running defense. I think pass defense is actually going to be really good just because of the amount of numbers they have on the field. I think it's going to be hard to find spots. And then also our defense is tailored to rush the pass. So, we can rush 4, I think, and get home. It's just a matter. And then we have a bunch of back end players to stop screens and stuff like that. So it's a matter of being able to punch up the middle and maybe even side to side, but running the football, I think, is going to be key for Notre Dame. If they can do that and keep it within, 10 points, I think you got a puncher's chance. And that's one thing I'm worried about as an Ohio State fan is it seems like every time we play a really big opponent in the shoe, we tend to lose, which is really weird. But when we play them on the road, we always win. So it's like Texas in 2005, and then Oklahoma a few years ago, and Virginia Tech, and USC, and like when I was in school at 2010. So that's one thing I think that's promising for Notre Dame. I will say this though, probably the reason why you're feeling the heat from the Ohio State fan base is because we are really mad that we lost to Michigan, and last year was a really disappointing season. I think fans and I kind of have a feeling with the vibe of the team is that they're going to have a chip on their shoulder, not like a 17-point favorite. So it's going to be a very chippy Ohio State team, and they're going to be out to try to prove something. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays versus Notre Dame, who kind of has nothing to lose, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I do think the youth of Freeman is going to end up being an issue, which is not necessarily something bad about Freeman, but it took Ryan Day a couple of I'm not even sure Ryan Day's outgrown some of the newness and coaching, but and being a head coach. But it was I think all in all, I think Ohio State's going to win because they're going to actually be fired up in a different sort of way than what they have been in the last few years. More like 2019 and less like last year. So that, but what the score is going to be, I think 17. I would not bet that as an Ohio State fan. I think it's a trap. It could get to that point, but if it does, then Notre Dame's had a really bad day. And I think, honestly, their best chance to win is to hold on to the football. So I don't think it's going to get up to that much. I think it's going to be, like maybe 35-24, something like that. I could see that as a good score, with maybe like Ohio State scoring in the end with a few minutes to go to kind of make it a 2-score game.
Gotcha.
That's kind of how I see it.
All right. Now let me ask you something, and I've been thinking about this, and I kind of come up full circle on this because Notre Dame went through something very similar. I think the big thing that everybody's talking about, I see on Twitter every day, Notre Dame's fans and Ohio State. Nobody, it seems like, was happy with Ohio State's defense, last year. The output, and it just seemed like things weren't organized, and it just wasn't a smooth operation. So now that's wiped out. Jim Knowles is coming in. My question for Ohio State is, how much do you expect that defense to improve in that one off season switching to Knowles? And it just seems like you're ready to roll and you expect it to all go smoothly. Is that how you see it, or do you expect some learning curve in their new defense?
Yeah, so I'm not sure about game one, but I do know this, is that if Ohio State's defense looks like it does last year throughout the season and doesn't improve, especially by Michigan week, by the bowl season, then Ohio State will be clamoring to fire Jim Knowles. I mean, it's that type of feel like we have to get this right, and honestly, they do have the players to do that. I know maybe a lot of the players don't have names yet, but they were all high draft picks. I mean, I did a thing with I don't know if you know Mark Rogers. I did a little thing with him, and we talked about Ohio State's recruiting on defense versus Alabama and Georgia. And amazingly, they actually have been since I think every year that's there today, they're like they're like right in the middle. I think they're like two or slightly third. It's not like a big drop off, between 2 and 3. I think one year, 2019 or 2020, they had the number 1 defense as far as recruiting, but most of the years it's been Bama 1, then Georgia, or Bama 1, and then a flip match between Ohio State and Georgia. So I think one thing you're gonna realize is that maybe as the season goes on, I'm not sure after the first game, but that Ohio State does have some named players that are going to go really high in the draft. Maybe not this year because they're sophomores, but next year for sure.
Yeah, and that's kind of, just my cursory research, of Ohio State. And like a lot of those guys on defense were younger, highly touted recruits, and then it just kind of went sideways on them. And I think this angle of this is very interesting to Notre Dame because it's Notre Dame's best angle to be in the ball game, right? Is to hope that Ohio State defense isn't quite ready in the new scheme, new setup week one. Can Notre Dame take advantage of that? Now, here's the issue for Notre Dame on the flip side of this. With Jim Knowles, I expect a lot of movement and disguising of coverages and last second this and that. That's what makes me nervous for a young quarterback Notre Dame has Tyler Buckner, young starter, raucous environment. All that disguising and movement and stuff Jim Knowles is going to bring, that isn't on tape from a lot of Ohio State's defensive performances last year. That is a dangerous dynamic for Notre Dame.
The other thing, too, really quick, and this is one thing I would be really concerned about if I'm Notre Dame, is I know you guys are really light in the receiver room, and Ohio State's defensive backs go against the best receivers like every day.
Yep.
And so to be frank, it's going to be a fight of a drop-off. Now, it's going to be new schemes, right, but it's going to be a little bit of a drop-off. So that's the key, I think. If Notre Dame wants to win the game, which they do, obviously, but they're going to run up. They're going to try to run the ball. They got to establish a run. If they can't do that, then I think that's where this game could get real lopsided real quick, in my opinion.
Yep, I totally agree with you. Notre Dame's best defense in this game is that offensive running game, just for the reason we talked about. If Notre Dame can't establish the run offensively, then that's how this game gets out of control on Notre Dame. That's for sure. I agree with that 100%. Now, last year, it took Notre Dame about half the year to get that offensive line going. Nobody liked the offensive line coach. Now the guy we all love is back, and we think we're going to have a good group. You're going to find out right away. Notre Dame's going to have to move them up front to have any chance in this game, and I agree with that 100%.
Awesome. Well, good luck to you. And, if you're going to Columbus, like I said, there's a mass across the street before the game. And then there's also masses downtown. St. Patrick's is one I would suggest. So thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks a lot, Sean. Enjoy the game and enjoy the season. Thanks for the call. That's a nice caller. Look at that. I talk all this crap about the Ohio State people I'm dealing with. I have a guy call. He's nice. He's giving us mass recommendations and everything else. Here's the other thing, you guys. I keep seeing this in the chat about Oklahoma State and that bowl game and all that. People don't like it when I say this, but I mean it. I'm almost wiping out the bowl game as a clean, neutral slate. I can't put all of the garbage that happened in that bowl game on Marcus Freeman. I can't. I just can't, in good faith, put it all on that guy. I can't. Oh, John, he was the guy, he was the head coach for the game. I get it. But there were so many atypical moving parts to that game. All the coaches trying to find their next job. Freeman on a national media tour instead of getting the team, like sitting there looking at the playbook for Oklahoma State. He's flying around doing the new head coach stuff. All of that was in play. Guys didn't know who, if you're going to be coaching there, or your agent found you another job and you're like looking on your phone to see if you could figure this out instead of researching the game. All those issues. And oh, by the way, let's also not forget the Brian Kelly Notre Dame talent. Where's it at? Where's the depth in the wide receiver room? Unacceptable, right? Where's the depth in the secondary? Skill depth in the secondary? Unacceptable. Sorry. Jimmy Hoffa in the chat. I thought they were going to find you at the bottom of Lake Mead in a bucket. How it's, if anybody gets that reference. 224, this has to be an Illinois call. 2-2.
Hey, what's going on, John? This is Andrew in Chicago.
What's up, Andrew? I recognize the 224. I knew you had to be somewhat local. What's going on, man? How are you feeling on game week?
I'm not sure. I'm really pumped about Marcus Freeman on his recruiting, but I think this Saturday, like when you watched Scott Frost, you could see how an impulsive decision can totally change the game around. So I think if I was Marcus Freeman, would I be the game that I would worry about the most in terms of game planning for Ohio State from their schedule last year is the Michigan State game, because Michigan State was pretty hyped going into Ohio State. I think they probably were thinking that they were going to try to pound the football. They got down early, and then they threw their game plan out the window and tried to throw the ball around. So if I'm Marcus Freeman, I'm really coming in like a boxer with a game plan, and I'm going to stick to it for the first half and don't allow an early touchdown to change that. But that would be my thought. And I think it's good that they have Al Golden as a defensive coordinator. I agree with you that I throw the bowl game out the window. That was Mike Elsing's, chance to audition as a defensive coordinator. It didn't go well. Now we have Al Golden in there, and I think he'll actually provide Marcus Freeman a lot of support and maybe calm him down, because you with these new coaches, you worry about them being impulsive. So that's my thought.
Yep, and I think, I don't know if you were with us earlier, I love the Al Golden hire, just stability, a guy who's seen it all in both leagues, like there's a lot to like. He isn't even the most dynamic recruiter. I wouldn't even put him in the top half of the staff in terms of dynamic recruiting, but I see his value in other places, and I almost don't have a problem with it. You don't need every guy on the staff to be a 5-star recruiter. It'd be nice if you could, but nobody can do that. Him being a relied upon guy who's seen it all, I love. I find a lot of value in that, a lot of value. So let me ask you this. What do you feel best about going into this game as a Notre Dame person, and what are you nervous about?
Well, I think to your point, when you're talking to the Ohio State guy, I don't think bringing in, even if you brought in Bill Belichick as your defensive coordinator, I think it's pretty hard to say that they're going to solve their issues up front day one. You even saw with Marcus Freeman last year, there was some growing pains in the first few weeks on defense when he was implementing, his defense. So my thought is, Notre Dame's game plan has to be, like, with offensive line being their strength, they've got to pound the football. And so until Ohio State shows that they're going to stop the run, I think Notre Dame's got to have the same game plan that Michigan had, which was, we're just going to pound the football. We're going to show you some different backs. And so I feel good about that. Until Ohio State stops the run, I think that's what the game plan has to be. What I do worry about is, like what I mentioned, I think that, Ohio State's going to be rocking 100,000 fans. If they give up a couple early touchdowns, I worry that Reese is going to throw the playbook out the window, or the game plan out the window, and start chucking the ball around. And I'm not sure that Buckner's ready to do that. So they got to stick to the game plan in the first half and then make adjustments in the second half.
I think that's very well thought out. And I've been thinking for a while now, if Notre Dame was going to pull this off, the Michigan template would be the one, right? Like that's the template: being physical, being able to run the ball offensively, which they did. And then defensively, Michigan's defensive front caused Ohio State trouble all day. And that was the template to winning that game. I think it should be very similar to Notre Dame. Do you see it the same way?
Yeah, I agree. And I just think that if Tommy Reese is planning on throwing the ball 50 times with Tyler Buckner, I think you're putting him in a terrible spot. So they've got to get creative in the run game. And then the other thing I would say is, thank God, I love Jack Cohn. He seemed like a good guy, and he actually had a much better arm than I thought he was going to have. But he was establishing the pocket. So thank God we actually have a quarterback where, if we're going to do that zone read stuff, or the run pass option stuff, that Ohio State will actually have to respect Buckner, keeping it and try to going around the corner. So yeah, I just think they got to get creative on the run. They cannot force him in situations where it's like 3rd and 10, and he's got to convert on a long passes when the crowd's going nuts. So I just really hope Reese is, game plan some, good running games, safe passes early on. I might even go 2 tight ends because you read how awesome our tight end room is. So, keep a guy in to help protect him, keep him upright in the first few series so he's not rattled.
Yeah, and you talked about you don't want to end up in a position where Buckner's back there passing it 50 times. Who in the hell is he going to pass to 50 times? Like, I don't even think that's realistic because who's even going to throw to 50 times? So I don't even think that could be possible, even if they want to do it or get back into a position where they feel like they need to do it. Buckner's going to have to open this game up with his legs. The more this goes along, the more I feel like that's Notre Dame's little hidden weapon. It isn't even really a secret because everybody knows he's good at it. But I just feel like you need to build out some stuff where he could pull it, keep it, and that could be a little X factor that keeps Notre Dame in the game. I just worry about him getting dinged. It just can't be all the time and wild because he's got to stay in one piece. But his legs are going to have a lot to do with this outcome.
Definitely. And I think Ohio State, they're going to do a lot of zone blitzes because they're going to watch that Virginia Tech game in the second half, and they're going to show that, Virginia Tech threw some exotic zones at Buckner and he couldn't read it, toward the end there. So I guarantee that's what's happening. So you got to have, Mayer sit on the seam, sit in between these zones because I cannot think Ohio State's going to go man-to-man, on the outside. They got burnt last year when they tried to do that against Utah. And I just think that they think that Buckner can't read defenses, but throw some zone blitzes at him, try to confuse the offensive line. So just safe plays, sit in the seam on the zone, have them switch it up, and then you dial it up downtown. So. Yep,
and I agree with that. And then also how we were talking about like offensively in the pass game. Here's the other thing that this year's going to have. Like, it's not an option. Notre Dame is going to have to do this. You're going to end up in a position where, because of your wide receiver room depth and the dynamics, you're going to need those tight ends and running backs to do a lot more, be capable of doing a lot more, and you're going to just have to get creative. And you're going to have to ask those guys to be better blockers or to make more catches in space than they're used to help balance out the instability in the wide receiver room. You're going to have to. It's not an option. You need more than one tight end to be dynamic this year. It's not an option. Mayer's the man.
Yeah,
but what else can you get? Because you're going to need it.
The last thing I would mention is I'm glad that we have a new special teams coordinator because in these big games, it's like the surprise plays is that can really switch momentum. And so I'm actually excited to see if, what are we going to do on punt returns, kickoff? Are we going to actually try to, do something dynamic? Are we going to put Tyree in a position to, get in the open field, stuff like that?
Listen, special teams, bad special teams always bother me. Brian Polian always bothered me. Decent job as recruiting coordinator. Didn't like him as special teams guy. That's another thing, honestly, we have not spent a lot of time talking about because we're all worried about the quarterback and defending Ohio State. We have questions in all these kicking groups, kickoffs, field goals, and then there's one guy who's got a bigger leg and then other guy has a little leg. Groupie is one of the guys, like, fine, I want to be a groupie, but you got to prove to me you're going to make your kicks, and then I'll join and I'll be a groupie for you. But so there's some instability there. Now here's the thing. That's a tricky dynamic for a new coach. Week 1, game 1 in that environment, Marcus Freeman having to make these decisions. Are we going for it on 4th and 2 here, or are we going to kick? Do I trust what I have? Are we going to try it and see? There's a lot of unknowns, and it causes me anxiety. That's why my hair's turning gray.
Definitely.
Oh, so
awesome. Well, I'll just end on. I hear what you're saying, John. You want to. This is going to be a project for Marcus Freeman. It's going to take a couple of years before he fields his best team. But I just don't believe in moral victories. They've had some close losses against like Georgia and Clemson and some other games like that, and I didn't feel great after those losses. So I wouldn't consider a close loss a moral victory. I think that, Notre Dame, they're a legit top 10 team for the last 5 years. They need to go in there with the expectation that they're going to compete hard and try to win the game. So that's just how I feel.
Yep. Nope. Andrew, I can never push back on that opinion. The one thing I will say is, and I've been saying this, unlike your struggles with Brian Kelly, I believe there's a light at the end of the tunnel here that didn't exist under Kelly, because this is being built and put together a different way with recruiting and talent acquisition and depth and all those things. There's a light at the end of the tunnel here that wasn't there under the old guy. And that would give me some comfort if this year ends up having more challenges than any of us want. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you see it in the guys that they're competing for recruiting wise, that gives me a lot of faith. But I just, if they lose by a touchdown or something like that, I don't walk away saying, hey, you know what, it's okay that we lost that game, because it's not. I think last year Ohio State proved that they can be vulnerable. So I think Notre Dame should go in there confident that if they execute their game plan, they can win this game. So
fantastic, great call, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks. Hey, congrats on the show, John.
Thanks a lot. Enjoy your week and have fun watching the game.
Thanks.
Take care. Oh, let's move to, what is this? Indianapolis? Is 317 Indy? 317.
Hey, hello?
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. What's on your mind, my friend? Good morning.
So, it's been a lot of Ohio State talk, which obviously that's on everyone's mind. As a fan, you want to see them win. You think we can win, but if we come out with a loss right there, I don't think you can put it on Marcus Freeman and the team, because realistically, this still is Brian Kelly's team. We got to give 2-3 years until Marcus Freeman's recruits actually come in with the talent. But I want to ask, I believe our Under Armour contract is ending here in a year or so. Do you think we're going to re-sign with Under Armour, or do you think we move on to a Nike or Adidas?
You bring up a good question, and here's my thought on that Under Armour deal. It doesn't have anything to do with how overpriced the golf polo is or the hoodie that costs a rent payment. My issue with Under Armour, it isn't the stuff we buy and wear, it's the cleats. They have run these sports medicine experiments and shown guys in Under Armour footwear are having major lower leg injuries at a higher rate compared to other like Nike and Adidas. That's my red flag. It's just the math that when they've looked at guys that have had lower leg catastrophic problems, it's skewed way more towards Under Armour cleats. That needs to be looked into. That part needs to be looked into. That's the part I don't like. It's a very odd number, the ratio of guys blowing out legs wearing those cleats. I don't like that. Go back to Champion and give me some other cleats that aren't going to hurt our guys. So you got to look into that. Now, let me ask you this. You were talking about Freeman, and if he comes in here, he needs to get his guys, give him a couple years to flip the roster. I've been saying that too. But there are some things you can look for right away early while he's doing that. Like the emotion and the energy in a big game moment. I'm looking at that right away, week one. I want to see that energy be there in a way it wasn't under Kelly going in a big game. Do you agree with that?
So, yes, I agree. And another thing I'm looking for, according to Marcus, is whenever you see a guy, I'm going to use, so Jonathan Dorr. Early in his career for Notre Dame, there was some blown PATs, some very easy kicks that he just flat out missed the goalpost, the iron so bad. And when the camera would pan over to him on the sideline with Brian Kelly, you would see he was turning purple. He was about to have an aneurysm on the sideline, and that always kind of turned me off. I felt as a coach, yeah, you can yell at a player and you can correct them, but when I felt like it was more of like giving an excuse to take his anger out on someone who made a mistake when that could have been a teaching moment where he could have been calm. I'm going to be interested to see how Marcus Freeman corrects our players, uses those as teaching moments, and see how he does in instances like that.
Yep, it's going to be interesting. And I think you bring up a really good point. As a young head coach, finding your head coaching personality. I've been thinking about that as well. It's different when you're a defensive coordinator. You have this specific one role, and then it's within this tight net of what your responsibilities are and you can worry about. There's a calibration here. Marcus is going to have to figure out where to allocate his attention and time and in what direction and when to delegate. I don't know how fast that process goes that he has to work through, but that's all a part of the equation when you're a new head coach, and it would be hard anywhere, but it's at Notre Dame.
Yeah. Hey, another thing I got to ask. So I'm 20 years old. I've been a Notre Dame fan my whole life because my dad, he grew up in that golden era when they were winning championships.
And you grew up in the Kelly era when all you've known is Brian Kelly, my friend. I don't know how I feel about that.
As a youngin,
right.
I was on the Brian Kelly train.
Oh,
before
boy.
I could formulate my own opinion.
Man, that's rough.
As I grew up and came up with my own thinking process, I was like, damn, this cat's getting us 10 wins a year, but we're blowing games to the big name program. So, how do you think as time goes on, do you see the fan base growing with younger generations, or do you still think Notre Dame's I feel like most people would say not an ancient program, but they definitely feel like it's not with the youth. Do you see an uptake in younger generation fans?
I think that's a really interesting question. Here's what I think. You are always going to have a certain percentage of Notre Dame families. The Irish Catholic thing, it's been passed down, alums, and then their kids are alums. You are always going to have that network no matter what, and they're going to have kids, and then their kids are going to be that way. Notre Dame's also always going to have that large Subway alum contingent. Irish Catholic people all over the country and world didn't go there, but love the mission and the value statement in Notre Dame. You're always going to have that. So those help. And the fact that Notre Dame's national and not regional helps as far as that fan stuff goes. Here's where Freeman comes into play. Freeman is already making this program more modern, hip, cool, young, energetic, not as stuffy like the Notre Dame stuffiness thing. He's trying to take some of that out, and it's beautiful. So I love that. I like that energy. I think him being that way is going to attract more younger fans to the program, but it's bizarre because I'm just not used to Notre Dame being modern and hip and young. They don't go with those kind of coaches. They go with usually older guys who were Kelly politicians. So this is refreshing.
Yeah, I agree. Marcus Freeman, the Freeman era is going to bring in a whole lot of new changes. I feel like he's, quote unquote, turning the program upside down, doing it his way, which I like. Everybody, their thing with Brian Kelly is that, he runs his program like a business, which, yeah, that's good for the business side, but I want to win some damn football games. I want to have, like you said, I want to see that emotion coming out the gate. It always felt like Brian Kelly would just treat the big games as like, it's just another game where we got to execute and win on every play. Well, when you're playing freaking Bowling Green State, that's just another game, but you can't treat Ohio State in their stadium just like another game, because simply it's not. And another thing about bringing in new recruits and the marketing, I feel like as a young kid, like you said about the Under Armour with the injuries and stuff, I think if we go to a Adidas or Nike, if you look good, you feel good, you play good. Quite frankly, we got about 2-3 Under Armour uniform rotations, and I'm kind of sick of it. I'm not saying we need to change and bring in 400 different uniform combinations like Oregon has, but I'd like to spice it up. I'd like to see kind of like that Joe Montana, that green and gold jersey come back, maybe some different uniform combinations. I feel like the reason Oregon does get all their commits, well, they do have a good football program, but hell, they've got a different uniform for every day of the week. So what do you think about that?
I don't think you'll ever see it from Notre Dame, because Notre Dame's going to want to be traditional as much as they can. So I think that's why you end up seeing the Shamrock Series uniforms being alternate, unique, designs. I don't see them wanting to get into an Oregon model just because they're a little too traditional. Now I'm talking about them being modern and all that. I don't think they're going to get that modern. And I think that's why they give you that Shamrock one as a free pass almost to be able to design anything they want. And then, oh, by the way, don't forget this. Not only design whatever they want their guys to wear in the game, but then sell it to all of us at a markup that's outrageous. But I don't think we'll see the Oregon, uniform rotation anytime soon. I do think that Jordan brand is interesting. And I know a lot of people don't like it because that's a Michigan thing and that Jordan stuff. Could you imagine the blue and gold and a Jordan brand? I'm just throwing it out there, and I know he's connected to Nike. People don't like the way Nike's run. I'm not advocating for sweatshops, so everybody back off. I'm just purely talking about the aesthetics and the brand.
A Jordan brand, a switch to that, I would buy 40 Jordan jerseys. I'd buy a sweatshirt for all my cousins. I'd buy a hat. Hell, I'd have to buy the whole bookstore if they switched to Jordan. But I want to pivot real quick. If I could compare any Tyler Buckner to any college quarterback in the recent past or just recent history, I'm not saying their games are 100% similar, but I was watching Ole Miss a lot last year, and I like the way Lane Kiffin was running that offense with Matt Corral. I think him and Matt Corral, they have some flashes of the same game, not the fastest runner like Lamar Jackson, but definitely mobile and can get you those first downs. And that release is so gosh darn quick, man. I know our game plan going for Ohio State is we're going to have to run the ball and keep the ball away from them so they don't drop 70 on our heads. But I don't know if coming out the gate, if we just can somehow incorporate those RPOs or hell, I
have to
option in there.
I've said that. You know what? I'm glad you brought that up. I brought up that triple option stuff, and I was half joking and half serious when I said, if you have Buckner and you don't trust your wide receiver group, and we haven't seen Buckner throwing the ball a lot, run out some sort of option to try and get Ohio State on their heels, throw them off, outflank them with one more guy, have a couple guys blocking. You got to pull out all the stops against Ohio State. Here we go. People are against the Jordan brand. They're telling me, John, you want to be a basketball school? That is it. Jordan brand is Jordan brand. I just think that Jordan brand transcends basketball to me because it's Michael Jordan. And he transcends sports in a lot of ways. And it's like, well, Michigan's a jump brand, whatever. I just threw that out there as an idea. Imagine if people are buying up Under Armour stuff, imagine what people do if it had Jordan on it. Or
another dark horse brand that I would be really excited if we switched to. I saw Boston College as their New Balance now. I would love to switch over to New Balance. I think they've got some great gear. I think that'd be a really good look. But probably what's going to happen is we're probably going to renew the contract with Under Armour if they pay up big bucks. But it's just going to be interesting to see these next couple of years and how the program's going to turn out in all facets and all forms.
Yep. And then, okay, two things for you as I let you go. Number one is somebody in the chat reminded us Notre Dame is wearing the alternate unis for Vegas, but they're also going to wear the green unis, I believe, against Cal. So you are going to get that at home. You're going to get two alternates this year. You're going to get home away traditional, Vegas white, and then Cal green. So I guess you are going to get a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I like the little spices in there. I don't know. I would just like to see maybe like a third preset uniform, but maybe I'm just asking for too much.
Well, and here's the other thing I'm going to end this with you on. You said you're 20? Your early 20s, right?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then from the time your mind is able to process football, your entire Notre Dame perspective has been Brian Kelly stuff. Trust me when I tell you, start wiping a lot of that out of your head when it comes to Notre Dame. Like the older people, you have these different feels. You have the feel of the Lou Holtz era, how bad the feel was under the other guys till Kelly got there. And then you can kind of compare those feels when you have that experience. I feel bad for you guys that only know Brian Kelly. Because if it's all you know, then it's just what you think we are. There's more meat on the bone, is what I'm saying. I think you're going to be glad with what the next iteration of Notre Dame looks like. Thank you for calling.
Hey, I thank you for answering. I've only been a recent viewer. I just started watching your channel in like the past 2 weeks, but I'm glad I found it. I'm glad we got a little community. We can talk and hash out ideas. And hey, I'm only Catholic on Easter Sunday and Irish game day. Go Irish, baby. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Call again, my friend. Have a good one. Enjoy the game.
You too.
I'm telling you, you guys are outrageous, man. People really don't like the Jordan brand. I mean, I just think it's a cool logo, and it's Jordan. That transcends like basketball, football. Who cares? Or is it just the fact that Michigan has it, so we all hate it? I'm open to that, by the way. Like, that's perfectly fine. And then that's the other thing, too. People are saying, I don't care about the uniforms, just win the game. Maybe that's the difference between me almost being 40 and that guy being 20. Like, and I'm not saying I'm wrong, he's wrong, I'm old, he's young. I'm not saying that. I'm only saying maybe I'm a little older and I don't care what the uniforms look like. I'm not paying what they want for a replica jersey of it anyways, just win. Maybe if you're 20, it more matters to you that everything looks cool and modern and all that. I don't know. Oh, 480, you've been on hold a while. 48.
Good morning, John. How you doing, man?
How are you, man? Good morning. So wait a second. If you're in Arizona, it's 2 hours behind. What is it? Not 8 something there? 8:45?
It's 8:43. 8:43, man. I've been up since 5:30, man. I still got the Eastern Standard Time in my blood, man. You know, I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana, so
beautiful.
I got the Eastern Standard Time in me.
Beautiful. What's on your mind, my friend?
Well, you know, I look at the transitions and everything that has occurred in the off season. You know, we all saw the video when Coach Bayless introduced Marcus Freeman, and the energy and just the excitement around the program. You know, we saw how even in the bowl game, I was there. You know, I'm out in Arizona, so I was at the game, and I saw it, man. I saw it just felt the aura was different. You know, when I watched the team warm up, when I watched them how the first snap, that first half, man, was just like Christmas. It was really Christmas. Like, I was just like, man, this is not the Notre Dame team I've watched for the last 20-some years of my life. You know, and then the second half, of course, we saw the transitions of how we just could not stop the Sanders kid from just having a field day run on us, and how it ate us up, especially in the secondary when we started throwing all these passes to, you know, in the way of Clarence Lewis. And we saw how the team just it was a bummer because they had high expectations to win that bowl game. But what I believe, man, is that this offseason has been such a bad taste in their mouth about that loss that when they come out here, and then you got to hear about all the Ohio State fans saying we're going to get blown out like a track meet, 70-17 and all this crap. I believe, man, that we're going to come out in Ohio State Stadium this Saturday and smack them right dead in the mouth in a way that they were not prepared for. Because you got to understand something. Before the offense becomes the main focal line of Marcus Freeman is a defensive guy to the T. Okay, so his first attitude is going to be aggression. He wants to make a statement on that defensive side, and I believe, man, if we win the coin toss, he's going to defer. He wants the defense to set the tone very early. Yes, C.J. Stroud is a heck of an athlete. Yeah, you got Jackson Smith-Jigma. He's a heck of an athlete. Marvin Harrison Jr., Julius Fleming, all these guys. Hey, man, I'm not discrediting that. What I'm saying is, it's not going to be what they think it's going to be. Because, man, the defense, I believe, is going to come out in full-fledged force, and it's going to rattle Stroud. I believe that it's going to be that same attitude that they had when they came out against Oklahoma State, but this time because they've had more preparation and because of the up-tempo pace that Freeman has introduced in fall camp. I mean, you heard what he said in the first press meeting. He said he's not changing anything. And the reason why is because he knew this is the kind of pace and the tempo I have to instill in this team because of what we got to walk into September 3rd. Okay? If we came in with that Brian Kelly, just another game bullcrap, yeah, I would clearly say we're going to get boat race. But I don't feel that way. And I have such optimism about this game that I've had in quite a long time. And I was around in the late 90s, watched the Bob Davie era go into the, Willingham and then Weiss and then Kelly. I saw all the transition. Yeah, we had some good games. It was like, man, it's crazy. Then we had some just straight up barn burns. But I believe, man, that the aura of this program now, I mean, think about it. He's brought some of these guys like Lou Holton and other guys around the program. He's like trying to bring that tradition, that vibe, that aura of what winning was like at Notre Dame during, John, your era. I mean, you watched the era of the Rocket and Ricky Waters and Tony Rice, Michael Stonebreaker, all these guys, man, that you hear these people talk about and brag about in that era. And I believe that Freeman recognizes and understands that in order to get this program back to the winning ways, you have to bring the mindset and the mentality and the aura back. And so I believe, man, that it's not going to be what people think. I believe we're going to go out on Saturday night in a hostile environment, 100,000 fans screaming their necks off, and the Irish are going to go in, and it's going to come down to a final drive on the defensive side. The defense is going to have to win the game for us, but I believe that we're going to see, and it's going to be a 38-35 win by the Irish.
That is a bold prediction, my friend. So do you see it being kind of like a Michigan template, the way Michigan beat Ohio State? Play that good defense, wreak havoc back there, and then try and establish power run game, have control that way? Like, is that how, if Notre Dame wins the way you're picturing it, what is the path? Like, how does Notre Dame get there? Because I know you have to understand, your perspective's a rare one. I don't. There ain't a lot of people calling saying they think Notre Dame's going to do this. Tell me, what does it look like? Great defense, disruption, then running the ball?
I definitely think that the front seven is going to be very disruptive. I believe that when you got a guy like Foskey, Foskey's going to cause some problems on Saturday night.
Yep.
I believe that.
Yep.
Foskey's going to get 1 or 2 sacks Saturday night. That's you can mark that down. I'll bet the dollar in my pocket. He's going to get a couple sacks Saturday night. Then you got Riley Mills. You got the twins, the Justin and Jason guys.
Yep.
I believe that, and then we're defensive on the defensive line. We are stacked, man. I mean, you can roll out 2-3 rotations almost. You're going to get some production on the defensive line side, and then we're deep on the linebacker side. You know, I'm really excited to see what these young guys see. What I believe, man, is that Freeman's not going to be afraid to play some of these young guys. I believe Saturday night we're going to see Sneed in the game, Prince Colley, Jaden Mickey, Ben Moore. We're going to see all these different combinations. That's why when they were asking Al Golden who's going to be the starter for this and star for that, Al Golden hasn't said this is the starter for the linebacker for the Mike, Will, and Sam. He hasn't said any of that. He's saying there's been different rotations, different guys, different combinations in, because I believe that he's getting all those guys in the mindset and the mentality that, look, you all need to be prepared to play Saturday night because I'm putting all y'all in the game. So you're going to have to bring that A game on Saturday night. So I believe that it's going to definitely be disruption on the defensive side, especially in the front seven. I believe that people are really underrating our defensive line. But, man, I believe that Foskey, Riley Mills, all those guys are going to cause a lot of disruption on the offensive line. And then on the offensive side, when you hear guys like Braden Lindsey talking about for the first time, he's feeling faster than he's ever felt. He's got an actual release package. I mean, come on, man. This guy, he's already – and then he got to think about it. This is his 5th year. He has one more last shot to prove for all of our fan base and everybody that's been watching him that he is what we believe he is. If he's a speedster that can get out there in the perimeter and make some plays, Saturday night is your chance to prove it. Styles, I believe Styles, man, is going to break out. And see, here's the thing, man. You already know they're going to try to double team Michael Mayer. That opens up so many different combinations for RPOs. I mean, it puts guys like Lindsey and Styles, you know, one-on-one matchups. This is where I believe the coaching comes into play, because you have a guy like Chancey Stuckey who's been dealing with the details, you know, and dealing with the fundamentals and the details of a receiver, knowing how to recognize certain things, certain positions that these DBs are setting up in. That in itself is elevating these receivers into another stratosphere when it comes to kind of getting off the press. But it all comes down to Buckner being that game manager. He's going to have to come in and, you know, he's going to have to know how to manage that game, man. He's going to have to know how to control the clock. The top position is going to be very, very vital for Notre Dame, because we cannot afford a bunch of 3-and-outs. We cannot do that, because if we do, we are basically handing the game over to Ohio State. They will capitalize. This is not a team that you're going to go back and forth and they're just going to have a 3-9, you have a 3-9. Eventually, they're going to score. That's just a given. But if we can control the line of scrimmage, I believe Harry Heastan is going to have that offensive line ready, even without Jared Patterson. And here's the deal. People are talking about they're worried about the offensive line without Jared Patterson. But in the offseason, from what sources have been saying, people have been reporting that this offensive line has been working more together without Patterson than they have with Patterson. So I'm not really concerned about that per se. Plus the fact that, hey man, we got Harry Heastan back, the guru of the O-line. If I had the other guy from last year, yeah, I'll be like, man, we gonna get it. It could be trouble, you know. But I believe, man, with just the confidence, the poise, the aura that has been built around this program in the offseason, they all know, we all know what we were looking at when that game ended January 1st. Everybody circled it on their calendar. September 3rd at Ohio State. So just as much as it was in our minds as a fan base, it was definitely in the mind of Marcus Freeman. It was in the minds of every player that knew they were coming back. So I believe that they are going to go into that stadium very prepared, because Freeman, for once, I believe, is going to have these guys prepared to play a full-fledged, like 60 minutes, just go right at them, man. No, not letting up, not, getting into this mindset of, we missed the field goal, whatever. So now everybody's just like deflated, and then we give the game over to the team. Like the guys just, the previous caller, I'm really interested to see what happens, because there's going to be an adverse moment. You mark my words. There's going to be an adverse moment on this game. And that's going to be the telling point of where this team goes September 3rd. Because if Marcus Freeman comes out with this attitude of not, coming out yelling, hollering, screaming, and God missed the field goal or it's another, You know, I mean, yeah, coaches are going to do that, but when you're dealing with a kicker, you know, that you're trying to get in a poised situation, if it comes out like a Kelly kind of deal, I'm going to be a little bit concerned with that. But if he goes in like Lou Holtz did, where I watched a couple of games where somebody didn't do well, he just went over and talked to him, just kind of grabbed and talked to him like, hey, man, you know, calm down, it's okay. Just another, I have a little bit more confidence that we will go out and succeed. But I just believe, man, that the talk that's been around. Now, look, I'm from Indiana, and I have a lot of family that are Ohio State fans. And they've been sending me tweets and sending me text messages of the scores and all this kind of stuff. You know, look, man, I just want to go into the horseshoe and just shut the mouths of the Ohio State fans, especially my family members, just so I can be able to say, look, just go get ready for another New Year's Six bowl game because you guys are not what y'all think y'all are, okay? Because I get sick and tired, man, of some of the craziness that I've heard, man, from some of these fans, man. It's just like, it's just crazy, man, you know, and, you know, I just believe that we just have it, man. We have the it factor that people are really trying to dismiss. I really feel that Notre Dame has that. And that's all I got to say.
Hey, I appreciate your energy. I do. And I appreciate that outlook. And the one thing that you said that I really want to keep in mind is you said for once, I feel like our coach is going to have this team in a position to be able to play balls to the wall, emotional, physical, fired up the whole time in a big game. And that is something that we didn't get under the previous regime. I love that. And it's going to be, you got to see it, and you got to see it week one. But I'm looking for that too. I got to feel that energy's different.
Absolutely, man. I just think that, you know, when you look at our past games, we played Georgia at home and at Georgia. We played Clemson, you know, and we had some teams that really could have won some of these games, you know, not considering some of the injuries that we've had, like the 2015 team and some of these other teams, man. Like, we had some of the talent around us to beat some of these elite teams, but a lot of that also, I feel, comes down to coaching and preparation and getting them mentally in the mindset to believe, number one, that you belong. And I believe that's been an issue with the previous regime, is that we've gone to some of these games with the attitude like, well, we're just glad to be here.
Yep.
But we really don't belong. Like,
Yep.
We're just glad to be on the field with Alabama or with Clemson. Like, no. You know, when I watch some of these old games in the late 80s, early 90s, man, you could tell that the standard was like, we are here because we know we're supposed to be here. And they played like that. You know, I heard somebody talk about how, like, the biggest thing with Coach Holtz was, like, he knew how to prepare teams for the big game, but then he would lose to, like, a random unranked team. Like, what the heck, man? How did you go from being number one team one week to, you know, losing to this unranked, you know, 5-loss team the next week? But the mentality, though, was that people respected Holtz because he put them in preparation to win the big games that really did matter to the program. And so I believe that Freeman has that mindset, and he has the aura around him already, that we're going in because we believe we're supposed to be here. We're not going to Ohio State September 3rd because we're just happy to be here. Like, that's not the mentality anymore. It's a new game. It's a new day. It's a new era. Look, Irish fan base, my family, Irish family, we got to get the Brian Kelly stuff out of our system, because we all have this feeling that we have because of what we've been watching for the last 12 years or so. We got to empty that out of our system. We have to go in knowing with some optimism that this team is going to compete and that we're going to win the game. We have to have that mentality. We can't go in just saying we're just glad to be on, you know, prime time against these big teams. We can't have that mentality. We have to go in believing that we are going to win. But I would say this, John, I'm going to get off the phone. I got to go to work. Listen, if I was Coach Freeman, I would tell every coach, every player, I don't care if you're the equipment manager, I would tell every person in that locker room, if you are not in a position where you feel like if you don't believe that we're going to win this game, don't get on this plane. If you are in the mentality to believe that you're not going to give full-fledged effort for 60 damn minutes, do not get on this plane. Because when we get to Columbus, I better see for 60 minutes, nothing but full-fledged. I don't care if you're going to break a finger, whatever. You better break a finger going 100%, 110,000%. Because I don't want to see no timidness, nobody being soft and scared. We going in, we're going to compete, and we're going to win. Plain and simple. If you don't have that mentality, do not get on this plane.
I'm telling you what.
It goes for everybody in that room.
You got a lot of energy for a Monday morning. This is an aggressive energy that I appreciate and I love, and I thank you for calling, my friend. Call again. This was a good, energetic call. Call again later in the week.
Yes, sir.
Have a good day at work.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Talk to you later.
Take care.
All right, Joe.
I'm telling you what, man, I got to have that guy just follow me around to get me pumped up in the morning to get dressed. Beautiful. That's it, folks. 2 hours in the books, 9 to 11. I didn't know what we were going to get. I didn't know how many callers we were going to get, if it was going to be more chat. There are some call bank here. Can't get to everybody. I have some other obligations today. So we're going to have to cut it here, 9 to 11. We will be back Wednesday, same time, 9 to 11, Friday. And then also, of course, the Saturday startup pregame show on Saturday. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I really appreciate it. This went beautifully for the first day. I'll try and work on some of the microphone audio with the pitch and how that goes. So we'll clean it up here from my end. But I appreciate all of you. This went great for the first day. I appreciate it. James, you're from Dublin. I appreciate that. I don't know what time it is there, but I'm here for you. So thank you to everybody. We'll see you on Twitter. Interview with the Ohio State guy. Going to do it tonight, post it the next couple days. The Scarlet and Grape podcast. So I'm going to do an interview with those guys, get the Ohio State side of this. Stay tuned for that in a couple days. Thanks, everybody.